Essential Balances. Stop looking and start seeing what makes organizations work. By Ivo Velitchkov. Introduction. In the late 1990s, I managed a software company for 5 years and stayed on the board for 5 more. The company started small, then grew, but not enough to match its ambitions. That's why, for all large tenders, it had to partner with a well-established international company, usually one of the big consultancies. This meant that our work had to be organized and delivered according to the respective prime contractors' frameworks and methodologies. These prescriptions guided the way the change was implemented in the client organization. It was fascinating and useful for me to learn so many different methodologies, even when they imposed restrictions that slowed down the actual service delivery. They all had some good bits and some limitations. The deficiencies I discovered inspired me later on, when I became a freelance consultant, to start creating my own frameworks, models, and methodologies. Yet, in the following years, I learned that no matter how good, scalable, or flexible such approaches may be, organizations are way too complex and their environment much too unpredictable to rely on prescriptions. Organizations can't even rely on performance indicators, no matter how advanced we became in managing data. Going beyond prescriptions and metrics was challenging but rewarding. What turned out to be even more difficult was to find a simple and clear way to share what I learned. I started doing it through workshops, and now, after much honing, refining, and feedback, and in more detail, I've tried to do it with this book. This book is about what makes organizations work, what it takes to see when they don't work, and how to ensure they do when the environment is complex and unpredictable. This book is also about balances. When our meal is not tasty, we add salt, just enough. If we add too much, it's not tasty again, but in a different way. We maintain these kinds of balances with ease and without thinking in our daily lives, but we're not so good at seeing and maintaining balances in our organizations. This book is about acquiring that skill. Why is this important? We depend on organizations and on how they're organized. People spend most of their lives working in and with organizations. We are coupled with organizations. So everyone's happier if our organizations work well. And for some, it's their daily job to ensure that. To be coupled with organizations means that we're mutually dependent and we co-adapt. But humans and organizations have had different starts on this planet. We humans have been around for millions of years. Organizations are much younger. They started appearing just a few centuries ago. No wonder that while in society we advanced to the level of democracy, most big organizations have only reached the stage of feudalism. Indeed, what we call organization is young. But if we look not just at those that are organizations, but more broadly at things that have organization, we can accelerate our learning. And there is good and bad news. It turns out, things that maintain their own organization have common ways to deal with environmental challenges. The good news is that we can learn from millions of years of evolution. But how can we grasp so much and access it in a way that's useful and usable? What I find fundamental, and yet largely ignored, are 3 essential balances. They're common for organisms and for organizations, and they don't depend on size, or whether organizations are hierarchical or flat. New business models and new ways of working don't change the importance of these balances. That's also good news. The bad news is that although the balances are common and only 3 are essential, there are infinite ways to maintain them. Retrospectively, we can find what worked, but we cannot prescribe it. We cannot extract best practices and develop methodologies. We can instead train our eye to see patterns and recognize trends before they become big problems. But organizations can go out of balance in ways not experienced before. Then it is equally important to work on thinking habits and skills that we'll need to invent new ways of restoring the balance. Essential Balances by Ivo Velitchkov.